welcome back to another episode of Two Idiot Girls.
Woo!
Woo! So, my name is Jason.
And I'm Drew.
So, today's topic is something that we've actually been asked to do quite a few times, and it's transitioning from college to reality and what that experience was like for us, and if we have any advice to share, like we always do. Okay, so I went to the University of Oregon, go Ducks, and I got my degree in cinema studies. And while I was in college, I worked 2 jobs. I almost had like 3 or 4, but then I couldn't do the other 2. But my main job that I did was I worked in student orientation programs. So I would help like welcome incoming students. So at first I was like, it's basically Link Crew on like steroids. So
She
at
was the
first,
person that walks backwards giving you your tour.
yeah, well,
That
I
was her.
wish that's a different job. I had got that one, but they wouldn't let me do both at the same time.
Yeah.
I only wanted that job because they got these really cool yellow raincoats that were like embossed with like the Oregon logo. And I wanted to be a professional backwards walker. But so I did that. And then I also got a director position in that. So most kids who like, or students, sorry, who go through student affairs or anything like that, they end up wanting to get their master's in that, even if they got their bachelor's. That's like just like the typical kind of pipeline that job kind of produces. And I was like, I have zero interest in doing this for the rest of my life. And so I graduated and then just moved home and was trying to figure out who I was and what I was doing and stuff like that. And then for Drew, because I literally graduated on a Friday and then I moved home on Sunday. Like I was like, ready to go home. Drew graduated and then probably didn't come home for like 2-3 months, huh?
No, a month. It was
Oh,
it was like
it
5
felt like two,
weeks.
3 months. Yeah.
Yeah, it was like 5 weeks, but I got 2 degrees in journalism and communications from the University of Hawaii, Go Bows. And I wanted to do sports journalism. That was what I really wanted to do. And I when I was in college, every job I had to do with sports in some capacity or journalism in some capacity because that I had heard that would help your resume or whatever. So like the first job I ever had, I worked in the media relations department for the athletics department, which is just like a fancy term for I was a bitch running papers. Like I ran stats and I helped with the website for all the different sports. And like the main sports I covered were like football, men's basketball, like women's volleyball. But I was just a fucking paper running whore. That's what I was. I would just print them out and run them to all the different commentators and like, yeah. And that job was really fucking hard and was a thankless job. Like I got screamed at by reporters all the time. And I was just running all the time in a green polo. Like that's all I did. But it was cool at first and then it just kind of grew old. And then after that I got a job at the school newspaper because one of my friends had started working there and she told me that if I really wanted to be a journalist I needed to start getting clips or whatever. So I worked for the sports desk for like I think a year, and then I became the sports editor of my school newspaper, which was really fucking cool. And then I got to do a bunch of cool shit as a sports editor. Like I got to go to Pro Bowl, I got to do a Laker game, like I got to do all kinds of cool stuff. So those are like my main jobs. I had like side jobs, like I was a waitress for like a spell, and then that I was like, nah, as soon as I finished that job. So once I graduated from school, I tried really, really, really hard to stay in Hawaii and it didn't work out because I was like, if I move home, then like, what am I gonna do? And
Like I feel like that's like
yeah,
honestly, they never prepare you for what happens after school. They're just like,
yeah,
especially in high school, they're like, just get to college, and you're like, and then what? And they're like, I don't know. You'll see. I was trying to think if I got to do anything cool with my job besides getting to welcome so many different parents and students to the U of O. But I forgot every summer for 2 summers, I got to get like a badge or whatever, and we got to sit in one of the box suites at Autzen Stadium for like one of the first like preseason games, and it was always so fun. But yeah.
yeah. I always attribute like this is gonna sound like a dig, but if my school's football program was better, I wouldn't have gotten to do all the cool stuff I got to do. Because, for example, Dayson's school at the time we were both in college, like obviously she's a Pac 12 school, like their football team has lots of money, lots of donors. They were on a winning streak. Like they were hot on the tail of their uniforms being different every game. Like they were just like the hot thing. So Dason School hired like actual adults, like salaried individuals to do the jobs
Yeah.
that I got to do at my
I
school
was so
because
confused. I was like,
yeah,
where's this
because
going?
oh
Yeah.
well, like I'm saying, like I got to do a bunch of cool shit
Yeah.
because my football team was not that great.
Wait, you
Like,
think I'm
don't get me
gonna
wrong.
like, you think I'm gonna pay an adult a salary for this? No, I'm gonna hire the first
Yeah,
kid
they're
who
like,
walks
no, I'm
in
gonna pay. I'm gonna pay
$10 an hour.
some stupid sweaty bitch with fake eyelashes. I'm gonna pay her $9 an hour, and she's gonna do it.
She's
So
always
like,
late, but she always has a full beat and a venti Starbucks cup. But
and
here
a
we
Red
are.
Bull. I was so up the ass of like Mountain Dew Code Reds at the time.
Yeah. Oh my God.
That's literally what I had in my hand all the time.
Disgusting.
So that's like my
That's
point being,
funny.
like I got to do that cool shit because my team was not as like illustrious and
Mhm.
well decorated as Dason's team at the time. So
That's
like
so funny.
if I had gone to a bigger school with a bigger program, like a more bolstered athletics program, I wouldn't have gotten to do all the really cool shit I did. So
No,
it
for
sounds
sure.
like a dig on my own school, but it's not. Like I'm very grateful that I chose Hawaii because I had like the best time of my life going to school in Hawaii, and then I got to do all that fucking cool shit that helped pad my resume. So it was a win-win. But like they hire like 40-year-old white men to like do the job that I was doing at my own.
Yeah, who have been working there for like the last 15 years.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Like
no,
yeah,
for sure.
they are like seasoned vets in the sports world and everything.
Yeah, I was gonna say too, I think that the sports journalism major at my school too is very saturated with people who went
Yeah.
there for that because it was the University of Oregon.
Yeah. And a lot
Like
of times they
okay.
chose to go to Oregon because of the program. So they
No,
were
that's what I
like,
mean.
this is
Yeah,
it,
because
yeah.
Pac-12 would do a really cool internship, or they would only pick like
Mm-hmm.
6 students or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
I remember because I was trying to be a journalism student. I was like, this is like the worst thing ever to have ever happened to me.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was like, oh, let me do the radio station. Like I'll do sports radio. And then I was the only girl in there, only brown person in there. It was just a very strange environment for sure. I mean, I went to school in Oregon, so what
Well,
do you
and
expect?
Dason hates football. She doesn't
I think
really
I was
care
there
for
going, this is
sports.
the most boring thing.
Yeah, she like doesn't really care about sports literally at all unless it's like the Olympics.
Well, and you were the sports paper at your school or whatever it's called. And so you would go to like local high school, like football games. Like,
Hell no, I didn't do
no,
that.
didn't you cover that a couple of times? I made that
No,
up.
ma'am. No, ma'am, I did not. I told you I didn't want to do local sports.
Yeah,
But
okay.
I said if I had stayed in Hawaii, since UH is not that impressive and they
Yeah.
don't have a state team,
Mhm.
high school football is like
Yeah, it's
their
like the hot
Pac-12
thing.
football. Yeah.
Yeah,
I did
no.
a story on high school football for
That's what I
school,
mean. So
but
you
I
did
didn't
that
cover.
once. I didn't say you did it
Yeah.
all the time. I just meant you did
Yeah.
it once, right?
Yeah.
And so for the sports radio, I thought, oh, we're gonna go to football games, like maybe basketball games. We had a really good like gymnastics tumbling team,
Mm-hmm.
tumbling and acrobatics, sorry. And
Mm-hmm.
they're like, no, like you're gonna go to
The
Springfield
local
High
high
School.
school.
And I'm all,
Yeah.
I think I'm busy doing
See,
literally anything else.
yeah, because they don't have the same access because your
No.
school was
Hmm.
so like prominent in sports at
Hmm.
the time, like all the sports, like not just football but football. When your college has a really strong football team, your
Everything else
school,
is nuts.
yeah,
Yeah.
is doing numbers. Like they're making lots of fucking money. Like all your sports
Yeah.
teams are doing well when your football team does well. So that's why
Yeah.
when people complain about how football gets the most money, it's because it brings in the most money. So
Yeah.
that's why like Dason's school didn't have the same kind of access because my school was like, you want to come? And I was like, sure.
It varies. Like
Like,
literally the first person who walks in is hired. I don't care what is
yeah,
on
they
her
were like,
resume.
I mean, I'm like, I'll go. And they're like, really? I'm like, that's like, they're like, okay, idiot. Like, they're literally like, sure, dumbass, go ahead. But also, like, my school, like, they would provide because the stadium's not on campus. So it's like a
I
30
mean,
minute
mine
bus
isn't.
ride
Yeah, mine isn't
away.
either technically, but yeah, I know what you mean. You gotta walk over the bridge to
Yeah,
get over there.
you gotta walk. We have to take the freeway. Like you have to take a 30-minute drive to
One
get
time
there.
when we took her to college, this was like when we first brought her for her
Yeah, and they
freshman
dropped me
year.
off. Yeah,
We
when they
dropped
dropped
her
me
off
off.
we went for 2 weeks. So for the first week, we were like helping her move in and stuff like that. And then the
Yeah,
second week, like me and
I
like
had school.
yeah, Drew's in school and the rest of my family, we were on vacation. And so we
Yeah.
all bought tickets to go watch because USC was coming to UH to play, and our uncle's like a huge fan. So we
Hold
all
on. Nobody bought tickets. You guys got free
oh,
tickets
yeah, we
from our
did.
cousin.
I forgot
Our
about
cousin
that.
on the team. That's why I said it's important to note. It's important to note that nobody purchased anything. You know why? Because I had a late class that day, and I was like,
Wait,
oh,
wait, I have to finish this. I have to do my part and then you could do your part really fast.
okay, go.
So basically, I won't spoil everything, but we didn't know that the stadium was so far away from her school. We had no idea.
Even though I told them.
Well, to each their own. But we had no idea because we had never, and none of us had ever been to whatever the stadium is called.
Aloha Stadium.
Wait, they do the swap meet there.
Yeah.
Why did we think it was on campus? We've been to the swap meet before.
You're asking me. You're asking me
basically
why did we think this very dumb thing? I don't know. I don't know why you thought that.
Anyway, so we went to the stadium and my dad was like, let's just go and we'll tailgate for a little bit and then we'll go. He's like, and then I'll leave to go get Drew. And we were like, okay. And it was absolute madness trying to park. My dad's like, tell that girl to get her own ride here because we can't leave to go get her. Okay, now you tell you the rest of your story.
That's the story. They ditched me. They left me at school. I and the shuttles that run from my school to the stadium had already stopped running because everybody was at the game. So I was literally in my dorm by myself. Like there was nobody in my dorm because every freshman went because it was an opening game. It was
it was the first preseason game.
Yeah. So
man, what a time.
That's the story. They ditched me. That's the fucking story. And I was so upset.
I know. I felt really bad.
No, you didn't. Yes, none of you did. None of you felt bad because you were all yucking it up at the game. Nobody felt bad for me.
We had a good time. What can I say? Anyway, so you're right. You wouldn't know because you weren't there. But so I was like, why haven't we been to the stadium before? This happened like a long time ago.
In 2017.
Yeah, and I'm still like, man, wasn't it? Anyways, so basically we both graduated college, got a job, worked at the job for a little bit, and then we quit. But while we were at the job, we did a lot of really strange things because that the job would ask for. And we have a lot of different like funny work stories, like entailing our job and things like that. One of the things we would do is we would visit businesses to tell them about the project and ask them if they wanted to give us their email so we could keep them in the loop.
We were bad news bearers for a fucking living. Like we literally would walk in and be like, hey man, just so you know, this whole street's gonna be fucking shut down from 9 to 7 p.m., 9 a.m. to 7 p.m. for the next 3 months. Just want to give you a heads up. Let me know if you want me to send you updates.
And then even then, it might close earlier. I don't know.
These and even then, I can't. Clock. And if anybody knows anything, what everyone's very superficial knowledge of construction is that it's constantly changing. Like we never know for sure. We're just going based off the most recent information we were given.
Even so the people who are doing the construction are surprised by
they don't
updates.
even know. Our job was literally to give you bad news. That was our job. And then we'd have to stand there and get berated wearing a blue polo and khaki shorts, and we'd have to stand there and just watch you while they berate us because they're mad about traffic.
So we don't have a lot of really funny work stories, and if we did, which we do, I don't think they would translate well because it's definitely a career that you have to be part of to understand.
They're like one of those where you're like, you had to be there.
You gotta be
like
there.
you just gotta be there. But like, what's funnier than us in two tight blue polos standing on your doorstep at like 12 p.m. peak sun, right? Sweating. I'm in my
red.
I'm in my 15-year-old purple Nikes that don't match. And I'm standing there telling you, listen, lady.
With a full beat and lashes.
And I'm standing there telling you, I don't know what you want me to say. Like they're so mad about the construction. Like that was our job was to get yelled at. That was literally our job was to get screamed at.
One of the jokes I used to always say is, well, don't yell at me. I'm not doing the construction.
Well, and I literally like one time I was being berated. Like we would go door to door, like to people's homes. Like first of all, it's your fault you bought a house by the freeway. That's on you,
Don't yell
buddy.
at me. Yeah.
Go back in time and yell at yourself for getting a house right next to the freeway or like right next to an on-ramp. I'm just kidding. That's a joke. I'm just traumatized. But anyways.
No, but it's true. You're like,
It's
you
true.
literally live next to it. You're telling me the worst thing that happened to you is the sound of construction, not the sound of cars racing in your backyard. That doesn't make any sense.
Or like car crashes or anything.
The worst thing is a pile driver behind your backyard. Come on.
We literally would be like, I was like standing there and like they'd be like, what do you want? Right. And then we'd be like, oh, we're here for this project. Like, we just want to give you the information. Like, bad news, bad news, bad news. Right.
Yeah.
Sorry, buddy. Like, do you want to stay updated? I can take your email if you'd like to.
And then they would just slam the door.
And yeah, they'd be like, I'm not giving you my fucking email. And you know what? And then they would just stand there and scream at us. So then we would just stand there. And then I literally at one point, I like couldn't take it anymore. This was like nearing the end. I couldn't take it anymore. And I was like, obviously, I'm the one who calls the shots. I'm the one who's making the big papa decisions. It's me, because I'm standing here in this fucking polo looking at you screaming at me on a Wednesday afternoon. Like, clearly I'm the one making the shots. I called the government and I said, hey,
I make 6 figures, tear that bridge down.
I called the municipal government. I said, do it tomorrow because this guy doesn't want it to happen tomorrow.
No, don't do it during that time. Do it during this time because it's going to make
that's his
constituent at 112 McMahon.
That's his peak commute hour. So that's the time I want you to do it.
Yeah.
That's why it's like, it's almost like, I guess you could say it parallels the service or retail industry, because sometimes you're just getting screamed at for nothing. Like, that's your job.
For doing my job.
Stand there. Yeah. For doing your job. And you're like, listen, man, what do you want me to do? Well, you want me to go over there and stop it myself? Like, what do you want me to do?
I know the part that's so like touchy about it too is that they can't do major construction on a freeway when everyone has to be on the freeway. So they have to do it when everyone's asleep. And you know who that makes mad? All the people who live next to the freeway. So they're like, why can't you do it at 6 a.m.? Oh, I don't know. Have you ever been on the freeway at 6 a.m. in California?
And that's why too, this is just like a fun fact for all of you, but they legally cannot do construction on the freeway till after 9 p.m. on weekdays.
So I'm like,
and it's clear on weekends. So that's why if there's major construction, get on that freeway before 9 p.m. Otherwise, they're closing a 6-lane highway to 2 lanes only. Like, I can't even
13 miles. Hurry!
I can't tell you how many times I've used that information just for my own personal knowledge. Like, when I find out that they're doing construction, I'm like, and it's late, and I'm coming home, I'm gonna stay off that freeway, man.
Yeah,
because they've closed 6 lanes down to 1. So that's when those.
Your 20-minute commute is turning into a 2-hour commute.
Yeah, you know those times you get on the freeway late at night and you're like, are you fucking kidding me? Because they're closing.
That's me out there.
That was us.
Block the lanes.
That was literally our job. Our job was to tell you about that. And then they'd refuse to sign up for the emails or get the information. And
so
then
they can know ahead of time.
Yeah, and then they'd forget. And then they'd get stuck. And then they'd call us again. They'd be like, why didn't anyone come fucking tell me? And then we'd be like, we did tell you. We visited your home. Yeah, we visited your home at this time. We literally kept detailed logs. Like,
I recall you told my coworker to fuck off. I wrote it down. Is not, but then so we wouldn't just do door-to-door things. We would do like big like we do them like on a Saturday morning, like a community meeting where we have coffee and donuts. And I can't tell you how many times I go and be like, damn, there's probably like no one here. Not if old people live over there. Old people would like to be at everything, and they would like to tell you everything that they know,
just
and
like you said, like Parks and Rec. Right, like
literally, it's such a great parallel to what we did.
Exactly what we did. Like, we ran community meetings all the time.
Yeah,
and the only people that show up for that are old people.
Literally,
and they come and they eat all the free food and they scream at you again. It was old just like nonstop.
And white people. And if they're old white people, that's another story.
You'll never hear the end of it. Like, they know no bounds at that point. And we did them all the time. Like, all the time. Community meetings all the time. We went to local festivals. We went to local fairs. They're yelling at me
while they're eating 2 blueberry donuts that I picked up this morning at 5 a.m. and butt chugging a Starbucks coffee that I brought.
or they get pissed off at like the options. They're like, don't you have creamer? You don't have half and half?
You don't have decaf?
You're telling me that you don't
Dude.
have French vanilla coffee made creamer here? It's like they literally would find things to bitch about,
And they're
like
like,
to complain
and you're
about.
doing construction in my backyard. I hate you.
Where does it end? They're like, I'm
Where do
calling
you
the
get
cops.
off?
I'm calling the cops. So
Well,
that
and
was
that's
our
why
job.
that was our job. And that's why Parks and Rec, when we first started watching, it was so funny because our mom was literally Leslie Knope in every way. Loved her job,
Yeah.
loved giving back, loved being informative, all this stuff. And then Drew was saying that me and her were Tom and Donna.
Yeah.
And then one of our
I was
coworkers
Tom.
was like, "Oh, I'm Ron Swanson." And we're like, "Nah, you're Jerry for
Yeah.
sure. That's what a Jerry would say."
Yeah, literally. So that was our job. That was like, it was honestly though, it was really fun. And it was very stressful, but it was like overall a really great job to have. I think
and
we learned a lot.
so much, on how to properly communicate with people when they're upset, and just different like office etiquette. Like, I mean, like we would get to the office and then for lunchtime would leave just the two of us out the back door to go buy chips for lunch and Wendy's.
And Wendy's, yeah. We would literally go buy Wendy's and we would sit in the car and we would watch YouTube and we would laugh and eat our Wendy's and then we would go back into work.
We would watch like 30-minute Jenna Marbles videos while we're downing a 10-piece in the car.
Yeah.
Those were the days.
We'd watch people go to VidCon and now look.
Yeah, now look.
Now I'm going to VidCon.
Look at us.
Look at us. Look at us. Girl, you have done it again. That's literally us. So it was a wonderful and extremely stressful job.
Yeah.
But I've told Jason this before. I'm really glad that I had like a lot of normal people jobs before social media happened for me, because
we have a better purview and like understanding of like what the real world is. As like disappointing as it was to have to do is like, obviously when I first got the job I was like, no, I want to go back to grad school, I want to get a job in movies and all this other shit, and every job I applied for was like, no thanks.
Same
I'm good
for the longest time. So that was like it. And honestly, like if I hadn't gotten the NFL job after that job, if I hadn't gotten that, I would probably still be trying to get that. So everything for sure happens for a reason. But I remember when I got the NFL job, I was like so excited. Like I was like, this is gonna be it, because this is what I had always wanted after college. I was like, this is what I'd always wanted. This is what I'd worked for.
You worked towards,
yeah. And then when I got it, I was so miserable there, but not at first, but it was a rapid decline, that's for sure. And then I stayed there at the fucking rock bottom forever. But when I was there, I remember thinking I really miss my old job. Like I wish I worked at my old job. Like, and that's how you know, like the grass isn't always greener, man. Like,
no, and our mom just did
really
such a good, she was like the best boss ever. And she just did such a good job at building this like family environment amongst us and our coworkers.
Yeah, because she could lead a team, man. Like
she
could lead a team like her
other
life
jobs,
depended on it.
we're like, what the fuck is this? I don't want to do any of it.
Well, and it was just like I was so used to a certain camaraderie.
Yeah.
And like I don't want to hear any fucking bullshit like, oh, like nepotism type shit, because you don't know our mom. So like she don't do nepotism bullshit, that's for fucking sure.
Yeah. I feel like, and if you personally know our mom, she's definitely held us to the highest standard possible. So it's not, I wish it was like Uma Thurman and her daughter who gets to just be in Stranger Things because her mom is Uma Thurman. It's not like that.
Yeah, it was just, I was just with people that didn't foster creativity and didn't foster a safe work environment. Like
at the NFL?
It was, that I was in a very hostile work environment like all the time, and I wasn't used to being in that kind of situation. Because it's daunting working with family, like that's for sure, because you're like afraid, like is this gonna affect our personal relationship? And it never did. Like with our mom, like our mom's a fucking pro, like before anything shit at else. The office. Literally. So the fact that I worked for a fucking stranger and she made everything personal just goes to show you that it has it has nothing to do with like the industry or the work or like the like nature of what it is you're doing. It has to do with the people that you're working with. Your
leadership. No, 1,000%. The only reason all three of us left that industry was for multiple different reasons. I know for me, I just wanted to do something I felt passionate about.
Yeah,
And I
same.
just wasn't fulfilled by that job, like
Mm-hmm.
in that way.
Yeah.
I was in a lot of other ways, but not in, I guess, a creative way and stuff like
Yeah,
that. And I definitely
exactly.
wanted to do something that made me feel good about myself and what I was
Yeah.
doing, you know?
It wasn't like our dream. And I know everybody's been in that situation before or
Yeah. Or
currently
you're
is
still
in that
there.
situation.
Yeah.
Yeah. Where you feel unfulfilled.
Yeah.
And that's how we felt. We felt unfulfilled. And
Mhm.
we were young too, like at the time. Like
Yeah. And
I
I
was like
just,
early 20s at the time. So,
yeah,
you
no, for
know.
sure. And I had jumped from like being in a really bad depressive state from the end of college straight into this job. So I felt like I didn't really have enough time or allow myself to have time to like unravel all of that and properly take care of myself. And it
Mhm.
wasn't until I was able to quit my job there and move forward that I was able, like I did 75 hard, if you guys have heard of that. Um, got all my shit together. And then, yeah, and then I got Drew right when Drew at the NFL. Right after that, I got this really cool internship with a music video company where I got to work on a couple different music videos. And then I was like, this shit sucks. I don't want to do this.
Yeah.
But it was definitely a really fun experience. But I was like, this is not it for sure,
Yeah. Well, and it's like if I had never, like I said, if I had never gotten the NFL job, I'd still be trying to work in sports. So like
Yeah.
I said all the time when I left the NFL, like I had said too that um it's like I climbed the mountaintop and I didn't like the view. So I was like, why would I stop
Same.
at any lower level? Like, because people were like, oh, why don't you try going to another sports arena? Like, why don't you try doing local sports or anything? I'm
It's
like,
like
I
if
went
you're
I went all the way to the top and it
if
was horrible.
we
What
don't have
makes
Coke, do you want Pepsi? No, just
Yeah,
punch me in the
literally, I
face.
was gonna say, like, literally, and honestly, like, they traumatized me so bad that I didn't even want to cover sports anymore. I didn't want to learn about sports. I didn't want to watch
Yeah.
sports. Like, I didn't watch football for fucking 2 years almost because I was so upset about it. Because I was like so disenfranchised with how it went
Sure.
down. And then, but then when you're at that really low point, you think like, oh my God, like, what am I gonna do now?
The
Like,
only way is up.
yeah, literally. Once you hit the bottom, the good thing is the only way from there is up. So, which is funny because I did 75 hard too after the
Mhm.
NFL, which reset me. And then obviously the pandemic hit. So that
Yeah,
really
it's weird
helped.
how everything times out the way it's supposed
Yeah.
to, even when
Yeah.
it doesn't
Cause
feel like it. But
yeah.
yeah.
And it literally, I was the month that I got fired from the NFL, I was supposed to go to New York for the first time.
Ooh,
And
yeah.
I didn't end up going because I lost my job. So I was like, well, I don't want to spend money right now. Like, and
Yeah.
my mom told me, like, yeah, if you feel stressed about it already, you shouldn't go. So
Mm.
I was like, okay. So we canceled our trip to New York and we did something else.
It's not that
And then,
cool there.
well, no, literally, it's honestly booty. I'm
I've
sorry. I'm
been.
so
It's
sorry,
just
but
all right.
I'm so sorry, but I hate New York. I'm so sorry. Like I'll go visit for work obligations and that is
That's
it.
it.
But I'm just
That's
a
it.
West Coast girly. Like that's just who I am. But anyways,
Period.
um, I didn't go to New York. And then literally like 2 weeks later, the pandemic hit.
In the
And
stay-at-home order,
New
yeah.
York was like the epicenter in the
Yeah.
beginning. I would have been trapped there had I gone, right?
Yeah.
And so then I thought like everything happened for a reason. Like I got fired, I had to cancel my trip, I couldn't go. And then like
Mhm.
the pandemic did such a weird way of like resetting everybody, like almost like reshifting your perspective on like what's important, what means the most to you, like you know what I mean? Because like it felt so fleeting at the time and everyone was in lockdown. So I
Mhm.
feel like it did a really good job of reframing my mindset about like work and what it is I wanted to do and like who I wanted to be and everything like that. So I'm like, everything happens for a reason. And I'm really glad that it happened that way, even though it
Yeah.
sucked ass when I was going through it, even though it was garbage at the beginning.
Yeah,
So,
because I had done like small internships where I'd like PA for like short films and like I did a couple commercials and stuff. But I was like, I
mhm.
don't want to work in movie or television. I want to work in music. And then I got my music internship and I was like, I don't want to work in any of this.
It's almost like no matter how many times your parents tell you, like, you're not gonna like it, like, like, take it from me, like, it's
Yeah.
gonna, and my parents told me that about my commute to work when I was going to the NFL. I was driving
Yeah.
2.5 hours
Ooh.
one way. And
To Culver City, yeah.
yeah, I
Yeah,
was
because
driving
I
to
went
Culver City.
to my internship was in East LA. That's where all the hipsters are.
Mhm.
Um, it would take me almost 2 hours to get there, and that shit fucking sucked because it was unpaid too. So I'm like, it's like I'm paying to be in
Yeah,
at that point. Because
literally.
everyone else lived in LA, so their commute was like 10 minutes. Mine was not. It was
Yeah.
awful.
Mine wasn't unpaid, but it sure felt like it fucking was. I paid them in blood, sweat, and tears
In
and my
emotional
mental health,
duress.
my literally mental health. I'm like, what's the currency exchange on
Right?
my depressive episodes that I went through?
Literally. Yeah.
But yeah, that alone, my mom told me like that drive alone is gonna kill you. And I
I
was
know.
like, you know what? Like it'll be fine. And it fucking wasn't
Yeah.
fine. I drove 2.5 hours
And
one
spoiler
way.
alert, it was not fine. Yeah.
Yeah, it was horrible. And then like the worst part about, other than it making me doubt myself, was that it was bleeding into my relationships with everybody else, like with my family, with my boyfriend, like because I was so fucking sad all the time. Like I was just like, and it was so funny because I didn't think about it at the time. At the time, I just thought I was overworked. But now looking back, I'm like, I was depressed. That's what that was. And it was really sad, like watching me wither away. And at this point, my entire family, including my boyfriend, all entrepreneurs. Everybody's working for themselves. I was the only one still working 9 to 5, and I was miserable. And I was like, dude, look
Yeah.
at my family like living it up,
I
and
was
I'm
gonna
literally by
say,
my
yeah.
fucking self on this lonely ass island. Like
I
this
remember
sucks.
when you called me to tell me that you got fired, and I
Yeah.
was doing something, and then you text me, dude, call me. I literally got fired. I
Yeah,
have to take a
literally.
screenshot of it because it was really funny when
I
she wrote it.
literally, you go down in the pecking order of people you call. So like I
Yeah.
called my mom first. She didn't answer because she was an appointment. Then I called Dason. She didn't answer because she was also an appointment. And then I was like, fine, I'll call my dad. So then I called daddy and he answered and he was like, what's up? Right when I answered. And I was
That's what
like,
he always answers the phone. Yeah.
yeah. And I was like, I think I just got fired, even though I definitely did.
I think.
I think I just got fired. And you know what's funny is when I left and I had to do that fucking walk of shame because the bitch fired me at 4:15. So she couldn't even fire me when I clocked out. Like you couldn't
Damn,
wait 45 minutes.
she couldn't even fire you at lunch. So you beat the commute home. She's like, I'm gonna
No.
make that bitch
And
sit.
I literally remember sitting in there going, you couldn't have told me this before I drove all the way down here. Like I literally told her, I said,
This couldn't have been an email. She's like, no way, bitch. I need you to come in, turn your shit in. And then didn't they have security escort you out too?
oh my god, I was like getting all antsy. I couldn't unmute myself. Literally, yeah. No, literally, she fired me on a Wednesday, which first of all is bad etiquette. You're supposed to fire people on like a Friday or something,
Yeah,
like
so they don't come back to the
or
office.
or a Monday. Yeah,
Yeah.
like you're supposed to fire them on like a weekday or weekends, like going into the weekend, whatever.
Yeah.
She fired me on a fucking Wednesday, right? And then she fired me at like 4:00, 4:15. The bitch couldn't even fire me at 5. Like,
Damn.
and literally the first thing I said when they fucking sat me in that stupid ass meeting and told me the news, I was like, you couldn't have told me this yesterday. Like I literally was like, I drove all the way the fuck down here for you to blindside me like this. Like, cause she literally
Yeah.
blindsided me. And then she just didn't say anything. And they were like, oh, well, we're not here to talk about that. We're just gonna talk logistics. I said, you know what we could have talked about? You finding a way to fucking fire me. We could have talked about that yesterday. Because at this point I had never said anything to her. Like I had never stood up for myself. Like
Yeah. And
nothing.
then so then
Literally I walk
right.
out.
Yeah.
I brought the laptop they gave me right in there to take notes because she said it was a meeting. So I like brought in, and then I'm like sitting there with my laptop open and they're fucking telling me that, mom. I just closed my
I guess I'll
laptop.
close this.
I'm guessing no notes for this meeting, right?
You just wrote, I got fired.
Literally. Position terminated. That's what I
I
wrote.
no longer work here? Question mark?
Yeah. No, literally. And then I left and then I had to like pack up all my shit. And there's still people there. Like she literally did it to humiliate me.
Yeah.
And so then like,
Well, now
and they
look
had,
at her. Big loser.
yeah. And then they had a security guard like loitering, like waiting for me in case I lost it.
Yeah.
Which I think
Cause a
is like,
scene.
I want to say protocol.
I think it's policy. Yeah.
But at the same time,
It felt
it
targeted.
didn't feel like it. Yeah, it didn't feel like it. It felt like she did this shit to me on purpose to like humiliate me further. So I was like, dude. And then it was so, you know what's like even worse when I think about it? I'm like laughing because it's sad. All day, everyone was treating me so weird. And I was like, wow, everybody's got a weird vibe because everybody knew I was fucking
Yeah.
dead man
What a
walking, bro.
loser.
Yeah, they were literally like, damn, you
Dead
haven't told
man
me.
walking.
You
Yeah.
know, seriously. They literally saw me about to walk the plank and like everyone was all, did you have a nice lunch? Like that's what people were talking to me
Oh,
like that. And it's fucking sad. But you know, and I told this to Billy the other day. I was like, what should have been my number one thing was that it was really hard for me to make friends there. And
yeah.
it is not hard for me to make friends. Like
Naturally,
it
yeah.
it never is. Like it's very easy for me to get along with coworkers. Like
Mhm.
literally people older than me. Like at the last job that we had together, we were literally friends with people like twice our age. Like we would
Yeah.
eat lunch together. Like you know, we'd celebrate birthdays, we'd do Secret Santa
Yeah.
together. Like it was so easy for me. It's so easy for me to make friends. And I
Yeah.
could not make one friend there, like an actual friend. All I had was like 6 degrees of separation coworkers. So that should have been my first tell, to be honest. That everybody was the fucking worst. Not
Yeah.
everybody. Not everybody there was bad, but most of them were.
90%.
So, yeah. So anywho, yeah, I call my dad and then he's like, I'm so happy for you. That's the first thing he told
I
me.
know. And then I was saying, now two of us have been fired from the
My dad, yeah. My dad was like, hey man, get in line, bro. Like people that have been fucked over by the NFL, me and my dad have that in common. We share a bond, a deeper bond in that sense.
trauma bond. Yeah.
No, seriously. No, seriously. And honestly, I would never even try to compare mine to his because his was so much worse. But it was just like having my family be so supportive and like so like happy for me
Yeah, we
was
told
like
her
really
just come
good.
into the house, and then we took her to Denny's and bought her dinner. And we were like,
Yeah,
we're
because it was,
celebrating tonight.
because it was 10:30 p.m. when I got
Yeah,
back
so
home.
nothing else was open.
Yeah, so we had to go to Denny's literally. Yeah, and I was just like, so it felt so lost at the time, but then now looking back, like that's exactly what was supposed to happen for me.
Yeah,
Because if not, I'd still be trying. I'd still be trying to work in sports. I'd still be trying to
same, but
like.
about something else. I feel the same way.
So it's like everything happens for a reason. I feel like you just have to trust the timing of it. Like
Mhm.
that it's like, even though it's so hard to tell yourself that at the time when you're going through it, you're like, this doesn't feel like this is what's supposed to be happening right
Yeah,
now.
I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah. But I know. I think our experience, although our experiences are unique to us, they're very universal in that
Oh,
sense.
1,000. I know there's probably a bunch of you that are listening to this and you're like, or maybe you're listening to this on your 2.5 hour commute. And
Yeah.
you're like, what the fuck am I doing? You
No,
know?
seriously. No, seriously. And like I thought that was my dream, but it
Mhm.
turns out this is my dream. So like, and I just want to say that the greatest irony is that I got one of the reasons I got fired was because they said I couldn't grow an audience on social media, but that was because they wouldn't take my ideas, right?
No.
All they
Yeah.
had was fucking wasp white mom humor, and for some reason it didn't really stick well with the younger audience. And then the irony is I did that shit for my fucking self.
Yeah.
So take that, bitch. That's what I was thinking. Like you guys said I couldn't do it, and I did it.
Yeah.
I did it. So that's why I'm like very happy with how things worked out. And now we get to do this too, which is something we've always wanted to do. Like me and Jason have always wanted to do a joint venture of some kind in media.
Mhm.
And it was like, it's just like divine timing that it worked out like this. And we started our podcast during the pandemic.
We
Our
did
very first episode.
2021.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Our
For
very
sure.
first episode. So even though it was our very first episode is like all over the place.
And then we took off like 7 months in between and then another
Even
3.
so, it happened because of the pandemic and because of where we were at in our careers.
Yeah. No, for
Yeah.
sure.
So
So, okay. Well, I guess we'll wrap it right here. So I think my biggest piece of advice on how we can do better in situations like this from transitioning from college to real life is to be as patient and kind to yourself throughout the entire process. I wish that's something that I
yeah.
had thought about. Like, I know for me, my senior year of college was the worst year because I was so stressed and anxious about like, what am I doing after this? I don't know. And it
Mm-hmm.
seems like everyone else knows what they're doing, but it turns out they don't. We're all just pretending.
Yeah.
So I just wish I had been I had a lot more grace with myself throughout all of that. And then even through like the beginning of my 20s, graduating and stuff like that, trying to figure out what am I doing, who am I and stuff, you know?
Yeah. I would say my biggest piece of advice is actually something that Jason told me before I got the job at the NFL, but I wish I had known it. I wish I had held on to it tighter at the time because I think it would have really, really helped me. But to not tie my worth to my work or my
Oh
job,
yeah.
because I always did that. Like I've always tied my worth to my productivity, my like success,
Hmm.
professionally,
I think
academically,
that's
like
it's a millennial thing that I think a lot of millennials
yeah.
are like, oh, like
Yeah,
I
and I'm
should
also
do
a
that.
Virgo, so that's another thing too, but I just have this constant need to overachieve.
Mhm.
It's like an incessant like addiction almost. So that's what I did for work. Like when I got real big person jobs, like all I did was tie my worth to my work and how well it did
It's
and how
kind
well it
of
was received.
a people pleaser type of attitude as
Yeah.
well. That's like
Yeah.
interwoven in that.
Oh yeah, for sure. And it was like that was my validation
Yeah.
was outperforming others professionally and academically. Like that was like my drug of choice and it always
And
has
like
been.
I think what's wild is thinking of the jobs we had after the one we had together after college, that
Mhm.
the jobs we did were like an eighth of the amount of effort and I guess like difficulty, I would say, compared to the job we did together. The job we did together had so many nuances. There's new things coming in at all times. We're always on our toes. We're always learning how to do new stuff. And then I go to this internship and well, this is like way harder and I'm not even getting paid for it. And I hate it here.
Yeah, it was almost like I would almost equate it to like apples and oranges because they were both two different kinds of terrible,
Yeah.
but one was way more tolerable than the other.
Yeah.
Like one we could stomach it, like we could do it, you know
Yeah,
what I
because I'm
mean? It
like, oh,
wasn't
I
like
got yelled at, but at least I get to go eat chips in the car with my sister after
yeah, yeah,
this.
exactly. Like we had some kind of saving grace
Hmm.
there, but like the other ones, like we were alone, so that's one, and then
Yeah.
two, we were like having these extremely taxing experiences by ourselves, which made it feel almost isolated because we were alone in experiencing it. And I just remember every time I brought it up to someone at the NFL, like I'd be like, I just feel like maybe I shouldn't be this unhappy. You know what I mean? Every time I brought it up, they'd be like, well, everyone's unhappy at work all the time. Like
And
I
this was
was,
pre-pandemic. So this was
yeah,
before
this was
everyone
pre.
realized, like, you mean I don't have to cry every day I go to work? I can find something that I actually
Exactly,
enjoy.
exactly. And
Yeah.
I remember bringing it up and they'd be like, everyone suffers, like everyone has to do they? Like that's literally what I was thinking. I was literally
Sure,
like,
everyone does, but do I have to?
yeah, exactly. Like it's almost like the whole thing about capitalism, like
Yeah.
just absolutely
So
ruining,
like a Stockholm syndrome type of thing.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, like your perception of what life should really be like and like what life should really feel like. And I was like, I'm miserable. Like at
Yeah.
least when I was at my last job, I had my family and like we
Close
didn't,
to work, like
yeah,
like
we lived relatively close, like way
yeah.
closer than I did when I worked at the
Wasn't two
NFL.
and a
But
half hours.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's for fucking sure. It was like 30 minutes max. But
Hmm.
like that, like I at least I had my family and at least I had like coworkers I adored and at least I had like, little pockets of fun here and there.
Hmm.
And I was like, and this is just nonstop awful. Like I'm just constantly awful. Like I feel awful all the time. And just like I talked to people that were like in their 40s
I
and they were
know.
like, everyone hates work. Okay, then why am I still here? Like, I don't
Yeah.
understand. Like, and I just remember being so jarred by that. And I was
Yeah.
like, no way, dude. And I remember right before I got fired, I told Billy, I was like, I think I'm going to ask to switch teams. And he was like, well, I said, I think I might quit. That's what I said. Because I entertained switching teams, but I was like, nah, dude, I'm going to be just as miserable. I'm just going to be
Yeah.
in another fucking, I'm going to be under someone else's thumb, just not this
Yeah.
girl.
Just not this one.
Yeah. And then he was like, do you think you would feel differently if you were on a different team? And I said, honestly, no. And if I worked for like Walmart, if I worked for like Carl's Jr., like would anyone be like, yeah, you should stay there. You should stick it out.
Yeah.
You know what I
But
mean?
because it's the
No.
NFL. Yeah.
Yeah, the NFL, like that's like honestly the worst part about them is like the status alone makes people stay there.
Yeah.
And it's just even if they're getting kicked down and treated like dog shit every single day, they're just like, well, at least I'm at the NFL.
It's like so not worth
It's
it.
brainwash, bro.
Yeah.
No, seriously, I was like, listen, a free latte every now and then or a neck pillow is not worth it.
I don't think it's gonna keep me going, buddy. I'm sorry.
I need a little bit more than that, dude. I'm not gonna make it. I'm not gonna make it to the end.
I know, that's how I felt towards the end of the joint job that we had together.
Yeah.
Drew was like, just wait, because she wanted to sleep at the same time. And
Yeah.
I told her, I love you so much, bud, but I'm literally not gonna make it. I have to quit. I have to go. I love you, but no. I love you, but no. The other day, this is the last thing I'll say. The other day we were on set for Drew's show, and she was sitting with someone we have loved on the internet for a good minute. And I went on my time hop and I found this picture, which is a picture of Drew holding like 17 donut boxes. She's being funny in this picture. She's not really looking at this. But
that dip brow's serious though, and that's the concerning part.
Seeking reparations from Anastasia herself. So this is a picture I took of Drew to show I think my mom, to tell her we got all the food for the community meeting. This was 3 years ago to the day of Drew filming her show.
That's crazy.
With someone we've loved forever. And we can now consider, I guess, like one of our friends, right? And it was so exciting. I was showing my mom inside, like tearing up. I'm like, look how far we've fucking come. It's insane to me. Yeah. And I'm just so excited about everything. So if this picture of her brows doesn't give you hope, I don't know what will.
Let it inspire you.
This is what we used to do to make each other laugh, was be ugly at work. So if you're someone, you know how that feels. But I look at my sister, from this to this, right? It's nuts. And so,
right, talk about a 180, man.
Right. So if you're listening in traffic right now or whatever, or you're at work, I used to listen to podcasts at my desk all the time and like be like, man, one day, right, I'll get to do my own. Just like we said, be patient, be graceful with yourself, and then just know that it's not always going to feel like this. That's something that we've always talked about. And just do things, as many things as you can, because I know not everyone has the opportunity or the privilege to be able to quit their job and just like follow their dreams. I understand that completely, but you can do little things for yourself to get yourself there. And then I'm sure there's
I was gonna say,
who start their own businesses. I mean, start a fucking TikTok if you wanted to, and you could start like building your own business that way or whatever.
Hey man, I did it, so there you go.
Look at that. Yeah. And business is booming for her, let me tell you, know. So but
I'm literally like, I'm so on board with that messaging too, as far as like, if you can't quit your job, because obviously that's a privilege, and you have a lot of responsibilities, just like take time to like take care of yourself, celebrate yourself, right? Be kind to yourself and like treat yourself where you can. And then just know, like she said, like Dason said, it's not going to be like that forever. I promise it won't. It's going to feel like it when you're in the middle of it, but when you come out the other side, you're going to be really grateful for the experience. Like I'm really glad that all that stuff happened to me, even though at the time it was the worst.
It was like the worst thing that could have ever happened to me.
Truly the worst. Same. Like it was one of the worst things that's ever happened to me. So like, you know, being able to look back at it now, you have like I think a much stronger appreciation for it, which I think is good. It's like, even though it's awful, it builds up an armor,
builds character.
Sure. No, seriously.
So other than that, we love you all so much. Thank you for tuning into this episode. Make sure you listen to it on Spotify and Apple Podcasts, and make sure you rate, subscribe, and review us on there. Leave us I love reading the reviews. You guys are so cute, especially the person who said, I love it so much, but I really hate how much Jason cuts off Drew, because then Drew forgets what she's saying. And welcome to being in our sisterhood, because that's basically our entire relationship is cutting each other off because we think of something funny. If you have a topic you want us to cover, please send it to our Instagram. And we hope you all have a great Tuesday and the rest of your week. Bye.
Bye.